Romans chapter number 1, let's stand together. Romans chapter number 1, I want to pick up in the tough parts of the chapter there at the end. We'll pick up in about verse 18. And I want to preach on this thought. Motherhood is under attack. Motherhood is under attack. I cannot think of a reason why anybody would ever want to attack a mama. But I promise you that motherhood is absolutely under attack. And once I began to study on this, I saw that it was not a new attack. Motherhood has always been under attack by the devil. And he just has more devices to use today. Quickly, let's read verse 18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness. Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Because when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like a corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. Wherefore God also gave them up unto uncleanness through the lusts of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshiped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections. For even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another. Men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind, to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. Father, we love you. We thank you for your word. Your word is powerful and direct and no mincing of words. And Lord, we see the world attacking motherhood still. And I pray, Lord, that you would bless hearts today. Help us to be ever resolved to protect the office of mothers. Help us to protect precious moms and precious babies, and to do right in your sight. We love you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. You can be seated. The attack on the family takes place throughout the scriptures, and we see different places where different entities are being attacked. You see fatherhood being attacked, children being attacked, manhood being attacked, but we certainly see motherhood being attacked. And it's nothing new. When you get to the very second book of the Bible, it's already in full swing. In Exodus chapter number 1, we see that the Jewish people, the Hebrew people, were so prolific and so strong and so numerous that the king of Egypt decided it was too much. And so he wanted to put an end to them. So he made a deal that any male children would be put to death as they were born, any Hebrew children. And he talked to midwives, and the midwives who would come, and God dealt with the hearts of the midwives, and they disobeyed their king. And they allowed the babies to be born, and they lied to their king and said, oh, the ladies are just so strong. Before they ever come to sit on the stool to have the baby, boy, the babies are just born. And man, those are some stout women. They're just having babies so fast. There's no warning, and we can't be there to kill them. When Moses' mother had him, she had to hide him. So either your children were going to be killed, or you had to try to hide them and break the law. So we see that even thousands of years ago, there was an absolute attack on motherhood from people that nobody wanted around. Today, there's still a massive attack on motherhood for those that nobody wants around. It's amazing to me that in our modern day era, that people are so easily fooled by the media, by educators and supposed educators, and government programs. And today, a lot of people will vote Democratic. By and large, most African American folks, most black people will vote Democratic. And yet, the liberal agenda today includes Planned Parenthood, which is was designed from the very beginning to be an attack on black people to prevent black people from having children. And it's wicked. You can research that. It's right out of the pits of hell. And today, by and large, most people that get abortions are young black ladies. And so there's an attempt and it's ironic that the name of Planned Parenthood is Planned Parenthood, because if you plan on being a parent, don't be anywhere around that place. They're killing babies up in there. And so it's an absolute attack on unborn babies, preventing young ladies from becoming mothers. And many young ladies who have abortions are never able to have children again. So not only do they kill the baby that they have right now that they're convinced that they cannot raise, then immediately some of them will never ever be able to have a child again. And so today in our very enlightened world, where we have the most education and the most technology and the most everything, it's amazing to me the hypocrisy that if you see a white stripe in the sand on Mars, on the red planet, there's a white strip, and they say that is evidence of life. Obviously, something had to be alive and either dig that, or there was water there. There had to be some microorganisms there, and it changed that dirt, and that white stripe on a planet millions of miles away is evidence of life. Meanwhile, you could take a sonogram and you could see a head and body parts and see a beating heart. Have you ever listened to a sonogram? They've tried to make laws where young ladies have to look at and listen to sonograms. You say, why? Because that's a whole lot more than a stinking white stripe and some dirt on Mars. It's a human being baby with a beating heart and a head and body parts. You say, hold on, that's my body. It's your body. Then why don't you let them chop your arms off and suck it down a vacuum? That's not your body. That specifically, it's not your head. It's not your arms. It's not your legs. It's not your heart. And you say, no, that is a clump of cells. That clump of cells has eyeballs and a face. Now they have the 3D or 4D or how many ever Ds they have on there, and you can see the shape of the baby, and sometimes you can see that the baby looks like, there's even times you can go, wow, that looks like dad or whatever. You can see the shape and the contour of the child's face. All right, that's my body. That baby may not even have your blood type. That baby doesn't even have your, come on a minute. Yes, the baby cannot survive outside of your body yet until the baby's probably, 5 months or 6 months, and then they need a lot of help, and things are developing, and things aren't altogether good. But I'm telling you, hey, that's a life. You could take that little clump of cells and put it on Mars, and they'd want to start flying missions there. But when they see it in a tummy of a lady who they think's not in a right situation, they want to chop it up and kill it, or take it out ever so gently and kill it and sell the body parts. Guys, you got to see that for what that is. That's evil. That's right out of the pits of hell. That is right out of the pits of hell. Well, conservatives only care about kids until they're born. Are you kidding me? I know you're not that stupid. I know you're not. When we went to classes to adopt, I'm telling you, every class was full. We talk to people all the time that know our story, and they want to ask about our adoption because they want to adopt. And yes, there's a bunch of unwanted babies, but there's a lot of, they're unwanted by the people who had them. But there are people who want babies. There are ladies that today, on Mother's Day, they're crying, not because they lost their mama, but because they never got to be one. And they'd give everything to try to be a mama. And they'd love to take a baby. They make it expensive. They're selling babies. We went to some of those Christian organizations. You know what they said? Even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when we first started looking, they were talking about, well, you can get a healthy white baby for $20,000. You can get a Mexican for $10,000, and you can get a black baby for $7,000. I said, what are we talking about? Why is there different prices? And she said, well, you know, a lot of paperwork and administrative. I go, no, hold on. Why the different prices? And they said it was supply and demand. I guess they weren't killing enough black babies, and there's extras of them. That's why they push so hard for the abortions. They're selling babies. The reason that there's so many babies in orphanages is not because people don't want them. It's because people can't afford to give. Hey, if I'm going to pay $20,000 for a kid, I want to be able to spend the $20,000 on the kid, not for the kid. And I thank God that He opened a door for us to have 4 children. My wife's a mama 4 times over, even though she never gave birth. And God opened the door. All we had to pay for was CPR and first aid class. And everything else was taken care of by a real Christian organization. And so we've been sending people over there, and they've been adopting babies, and we know friends that have adopted. Hey, the problem is not supply and demand. The problem, first of all, is that they want to go in and teach sex education to kindergartners. And you're teaching kids how to do stuff when they don't have the mental wherewithal to handle themselves. And you say, well, if they don't know, are you kidding me? Do you think that's helped one little bit? Do you think things are better now than they were 40 years ago? Killing babies by the hundreds of thousands every single year. Millions upon millions of babies have been killed. And then people want to jump off and talk about incest and rape. Listen, those are the minuscule cases. Let's don't talk about the minuscule cases right now. Let's talk about just straight up the young ladies that go. We support our local pregnancy resource center. And whenever they go in there, they talk to young ladies, and a lot of them think they're going there to get an abortion because of the name of the place. They think pregnancy resource, I need to fix this. And they do. They need to fix their lives. The answer is not killing the babies. The answer is to fix your life. And I know that there's a lot of anti-abortion ministries. And listen, some guys want to take big ginormous signs of body parts and things and walk around outside of abortion clinics, and somebody wants to set a bomb inside an abortion clinic. I just want to prevent girls from needing to go there in the first place. I want to reach them while they're little. I want to reach them when they're kids so that they don't get pregnant. I want to teach young men to keep their stinking hands to themselves. I want to teach young ladies to keep their hands to themselves. Sometimes the young ladies are the aggressors. That changed, man. When video games came out, the boys stopped being the aggressors. Boys don't even care about girls anymore. They're all just over here strengthening their thumb muscles. The girls are the aggressors so many times now. And I want to teach parents to watch your kids. Don't trust your kids. I had parents ready to quit the church because I said all children will lie right to your face. And then later parents came back and said, "Ooh, man, I got mad. I'm glad I didn't quit the church because they lied right to my face." I was like, I know. I'm not saying your kid's right. I'm saying they're human. And all humans have a propensity to sin. And that's why we need to watch over our kids. That's why we need to protect them. That's why we need to do stuff. We don't need more abortions. We need to keep people from getting pregnant. And we don't keep them from getting pregnant by giving them how-to classes in school. There's just the modern day abortion agenda. I'm telling you, it's an attack on motherhood. No worse, not one bit worse than the king of Egypt having those children killed. You know what he was asking for, don't you? As they were being born, they would kill the children. It was just partial birth abortion. It was just partial birth abortion is all they were doing. And then today, one of the biggest attacks comes from the homosexual agenda. The homosexual agenda is against motherhood. Number one, it's a shame for any of the mothers, for their children to fall into the homosexual agenda. But then it also keeps young ladies from having babies. Ladies with ladies, men with men, that don't make a baby. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, you can go talk to a plumber. There are male parts and female parts. And you put two male parts together, you put two female parts together, and you got a mess. You do not have a plumbing system. That will not pass inspection. It won't hold water. It won't do anything. Verse 21, right here in our text in Romans 1 and verse 21, it said that they were not thankful for how God had made them. Look at verse 1. Because when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful. So what they do instead? They came up with vain imaginations. Well, I'm not thankful for what God did. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to think of something else to do that's anti-God. Anti-God. And you go, you wait a minute, because I think you're wrong about the homosexual agenda. Really? You know what? I was about to say you should go home and Google one of the gay day parades, but please don't. It's filth. It'll vex your righteous soul. It's filthy. It is not about some person loving another person. It is about vile affection. It is about vile animalistic perversion against God is what it is. And it is an attack on the modern day family. They were not thankful. In fact, verse 22 says that they became fools. They think they're so smart. They think they're so wise. They have become fools. And they're especially fools if they think they're not going to have to stand before God one day. Verse 23, look what it says. It says they changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like a corruptible man and birds. You know what? They made God no different than anything else. That's why I think we need to be careful when we're talking about God and we say things like, oh, that's just JC and his old man upstairs. That's the big man. I'll talk to my and they sometimes they bring God down. Don't bring God down. Don't change the glory of our Heavenly Father. Don't change the glory of our Almighty God. I want to show you what happens when you do. Look at the very next verse. When they changed the glory and brought him down, look at verse 24. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness. God gave them up. Why? Because they changed his glory. We're going to see God doesn't like change. I'll show you in the next few verses how God doesn't like. You want to change his glory? He'll give you up to, look at it. It says right there, he gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. So are you sure that's talking about homosexuality? Oh, no, it's probably not. You're probably just blind and dumb. I'm telling you, that's exactly what it's talking about. And then look at verse 25. Then they changed the truth. They changed the truth of God into a lie. Well, what did God do about that? Look at verse 26. For this cause, God gave them up unto vile affections. God gave them up. God gave them up. You want to change something? I'm going to give you up to it. You want to change what I've given you? I'll let you do it. You know what? If you want to keep doing wicked things, God will let you. You have a free will. You don't have a free pass, but you have a free will. See, as a human being, God has given us a free will, and we can do whatever we want to do. You can pick what you want to do, friend, but you don't get to pick the consequences. If I do wrong, I will pay the price for doing wrong. If I do wrong, God will see to it. Because see, I got to stand before God. And so do you. And when we do, we're going to be held accountable for what we've done. So be careful when you start changing God's things. Because God gave them up. God gave them over. There in verse 26, okay. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affection. Even their women did change the natural use of that which is against nature. What's the natural use of a woman? To be tender, to be loving, to be able to have babies and to nurture those babies. The ladies who choose to be with ladies, they're not having babies and nurturing babies. Usually one of them dresses up like a fake man. Here's what I don't understand. Here's how confused they are. I'm a woman and I love this other woman. So I'm going to dress up like a man to be attracted by her. What? If they both love women, why does one of them wear a belt buckle? Looks like she just won at the rodeo. And cut her hair like her older brother. What kind of a woman walks in and says, I'm a woman, I'm in love with another woman, she's in love with me because I'm a woman, give me a 1957 boy's haircut. That doesn't make any sense. It's the confusion. But if you don't love God, God will give you over to get yourself in the mess you want to get in. It's an attack. Y'all don't have to amen. I'm okay. I'm comfortable with it right here. I'm just going to go ahead and stick with the scriptures. Verse 27. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, gag and maggot, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly. Are you kidding me? If all the men turn gay, how in the world is a woman ever going to have babies? They can't reproduce. That's why they got to recruit. It's an attack on motherhood. There's young ladies. We know young ladies that are living their life. They're looking for the right guys. And they're looking for the right men. They're looking for somebody who wants to serve God. And they want to find somebody who can be the man of the house and who can be a good husband and who can be a good father. And meanwhile, there's a bunch of idiots running around liking other men. How's a woman supposed to find a good man if all the men are running around looking for other men? God help, that's the mess we're in. Well, so they changed. Leaving the natural use of the woman, another change. So they changed the way they look at women. Well, let's see what happens. Look at verse 28. God will give them up too. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind, to do those things which are not convenient. And then I read that list, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness. But they love God. They love God. Are you sure? If they love God, why don't they just do what God made them to do? He said, you just don't understand. You're not gender savvy. You don't know about all the different genders. I do too. If I had $1 for every gender there was in 2017, I'd have $2. But what about the LGBTQP, elemental P? 2 genders. You're either a boy or you're a girl. That's how God made us. There's a purpose. You know, when you're in Genesis and God makes the creation, and then on the 6th day he makes man, And then he looks at everything and saw it was very good. The very first thing that's not good is that the man was alone. He didn't say, oh man, he's alone. I better make another one just like him so they can hang out together. No, he made a woman. Can you imagine how pretty she must have been? The very first one. She didn't have fake eyebrows. She didn't color her hair 20 times till it was ready to fall out. She didn't have to put on so much makeup it looked like she was hanging out with Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey. I'm telling you, man, she must have been beautiful. And I just don't think Adam looked at her and went, man, got one with a little more hair on her arms? You got a hairy one that stinks like I do? I think he was pleased with what God gave him. You know, some people, they have it hard. And some people have a hard life. And unfortunately, there are stinking perverts that ought to be put to death who mess with children when they're young. I said they ought to be put to death. You know, so did God, but, you know, I'll take credit for it today. We'll just say they ought to be put to death if you mess with a child. What do you do? Somebody was asking a stinking question. It made me happy. They said, if somebody, you know, why is it so hard? There's putting through bills that they're going to take people off government assistance if they were murderers or child molesters. And somebody's like, where's the grace? Where's the grace? I'm like, no, where's the death penalty? Where's the death penalty? See, if you'd kill them, you wouldn't have to worry about feeding them. And by the way, these young people who grow up, they wouldn't have to grow up freaked out that the bad man may have to come back or the bad woman may come back. No, you kill them and say that one will never come back again. Give those families a little bit of closure. Give those families a little bit of peace. Not your typical Mother's Day message, but we're not living in typical Mother's Day time. We live in a world that's pretending. Do you realize that this year is the highest amount? I heard on the news that this year Americans will spend over $23 billion with a B dollars on Mother's Day. That's a lot of money. But while they're spending that money, you better look around and realize that motherhood in general is under attack. Motherhood is under attack. They want to kill babies before they're born, and then they want to snag babies and recruit them off into homosexuality. You look at the rebellion that comes in on TV, and even Walt Disney and that kind of stuff that's made for children. Made for children. And then who are the heroes? Britney Spears? What's that, Hannah Montana? All these, Demi Lovato, some brothers. Anyway, they get together and doing drugs together and having filth together, going to jail together, going to prison together, doing all kinds of wickedness. And if you'll do a little bit of research, you'll find out that most of these childhood stars are being molested in Hollywood, even while they're there. And it's no wonder then that children, they see them, and then all of a sudden they're caught off in drugs. And in the 80s, we had, those guys had the same name, and all those young stars, what? Yeah, the Coreys. Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, they were in all the 80s shows. Both of them were repeatedly passed around by filthy perverts. Became drug addicts, and one of them finally just killed himself. And the world just acts like nothing's going on. We need to see that our families are under attack. We ought to embrace genuine, biblical, scriptural motherhood. We ought to love your mama. You ought to honor your mama like God said to. You ought to take care of her when she's old like the Bible tells us to. I'm sick and tired of hearing about mamas that need help and this and that. Meanwhile, their kids are off drinking beer, smoking pot, and living it up, and their poor mamas are doing without. That ain't going to be a good day when you stand before God. Our families are under attack. Man, we ought to just embrace godly living. We ought to embrace God's plan for the family. We ought to embrace our mamas and thank God for them and provide for them and protect them. I think mamas ought to all be feminine. I think, hey, daddies ought to be masculine and mamas ought to be feminine. Secondly, I think mamas ought to all be fruitful. Don't be sitting at home watching, what's her name, Oprah's. Oprah ain't got nothing for you. Don't sit at home watching the TV. It don't matter what them judge shows are. I got my program. You don't need no stinking soap opera. You ought to stay busy. If you expect some husband to go out and work, you ought to work too. Work right there. Whether it's home, working from the home, working out, whatever you got to do. Listen, be fruitful. Don't let your kids see a lazy mama. You'll lose respect. They ought to be feminine. They ought to be fruitful. And they ought to be faithful. 3 F's for mamas. Hey, there's an attack today, and we need to fortify our homes and love our mamas, make sure they are secure in their position and secure with knowing that they are loved and appreciated, and you don't have to go out and spend a fortune to do that. Man, if you'd write your mama a note, I bet she'd love it if you just call her. I got an aunt that never was a mama. She never got to be a mama. She got pregnant one time and lost the baby. But when I was a little kid, she finally found us. We moved around all the time. She found us, and she took me to her house in Austin. And I got to go down there every summer, and she was a second mama to me. This morning, I just sent her a note. I didn't have time to call her. I was busy. But I texted her. I said, "Happy Mother's Day. I love you." And she wrote me back and said, "I love you too." And then she wrote me back again and said, "You just made my day." There's a lot of ladies who would love to be a mama. And there's a bunch of them that are mamas and they ain't doing nothing with it. And then there's a bunch of them killing their babies so that they don't have to be mamas. Our priorities in America, around the world, are so out of whack. What we need is a great revival. And you say, well, we'll never have another world revival. Just have one at your house and see what happens. Maybe if a bunch of us just had it at our house, then our whole church could have it. And if our whole church had it, it might spread to the community. And then we just start from there. How about we just start at our house, okay? How would that be? Want to? Let's just start having a revival at our house. Let's just get around God's word at our houses and love the Lord and trust him to do what he wants us to do. Father in heaven, we love you. And Lord, I love your plan. In your great wisdom, you gave us mothers. Father, I pray you'd help us to honor our mothers the way we're supposed to, not just with a card or a bouquet of flowers, but help us to love on them and show them to be thankful for what they did for us and to help them as they get older. Lord, I pray that you'd watch over us and protect us. And Lord, I pray that we would be actively, energetically, and aggressively defensive of the role and station of mothers. It's got to be more than a day. It's got to be more than a luncheon. God, help us to honor our parents, even the ones that maybe don't deserve it. There was no caveat in your multiple commands to honor our parents. Lord, I just pray you'd help us to be what you'd have us to be. And I pray that you'd bless in Jesus' name.